Bungie, as we all know, is in a terrible state. I think anyone with a functioning brain can acknowledge that. But Bungie was once one of the pillars of gaming. I'm not going to dig too much into their successful past. I'm talking about you, Halo. But if you guys do want me to make a Halo-only related type of video, feel free to ask me. Anyway, I do want to talk about the old Marathon, because fun fact about myself, I did not know about Marathon until this recent installment. So if I'm being honest with myself, I just kind of wanted to dig into the past Marathon because it did sound intriguing to me. But if you don't want the history lesson, then feel free to skip to the next chapter. With that being said, my name is Desert Ego, and enjoy the video. Before Destiny, before Halo, before Bungie was the Bungie who loves to buy cars, there was Marathon.
Then came Marathon, which was a real big hit for us.
So, Jason, when you shipping Marathon?
Marathon is a first-person non-linear science fiction game. It got its name from an interstellar colony ship that became the main setting of the game. It was originally released on the OG classic Mac OS, which is insane to think about considering the classic Mac OS came out in 1984. I know some of y'all motherfuckers are that old. Goddamn ancient beings. Marathon consists of 3 titles, excluding the upcoming reboot one. The first game just being called Marathon, which was released in 1994. Then Marathon 2 Durandal in 1995, and then Marathon Infinity in 1996. Fun fact, out of all the OG Marathon games, Marathon 2 was the only one to be released on console, specifically on the Xbox 360 as an arcade game. Man, those were the fucking good old days. Holy, I am old as shit. Bungie in the early 90s was a tiny, starving company. It's almost like we just went full circle. It's funny how that works. Starving for cash and having a small dev team, making Marathon was a huge risk. If Marathon flopped, it would have collapsed the company. But unfortunately, Marathon didn't flop because they're still here. In fact, Marathon became one of the most successful Mac shooters ever. The success secured money, credibility, and a loyal fan base at that time. It just made the company as a whole more sustainable. Now, I haven't played the OG games personally, but I've seen gameplay and videos about it, so take my shit with a grain of salt if you want. But a lot of people do say the story of the OG games were incredible and ahead of its time. I mean, look at what this guy had to say. It has good continuity, but loose enough and spontaneous enough that it seems like it portrays a complex world. Other games have stories which only relate to the events portrayed in the game. It has interesting characters born out of limitations of the game. The protagonist is silent, and it uses the silence of you as an interesting character in the game. It doesn't aim to be comprehensible by the lowest common denominator and has references to programming glitches and secret messages. It effectively portrays different communication styles for alien races. There's plenty more of examples on why people love the story, but this video would be 20 years long, so let's move on. So given that Marathon had no voice actors, no cutscenes, they needed to find a way to convey a story, which led to the creation of the terminals. This is a old school way of telling a story, you know, just through text. Whoa, rewind this real quick. Because I was looking for Marathon music, and take a listen to this shit.
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Ah, watch it!
I don't know what the devs are on, but this is not it. Terminals are the main source of Marathon's lore, because the game itself is just mainly about shooting shit, but if you were invested in the world of Marathon, you could read these terminals and understand more about it. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm from Gen Z, which means I low-key don't like to read. But sometimes I occasionally do, and some of the terminals are very deep. I mean, look at this one. Existence is simple. Find the food, push the button, hit the treadmill. But sometimes it gets much harder. Sometimes the food makes you sick, or you can hear nearby feet racing you, urging you. Or sometimes the buttons only gets you landed right back in the beginning of the maze again, and the food won't satisfy. So, for anyone that doesn't understand what the it's even trying to say, let me put you on game. When it talks about food, buttons, mazes, and the treadmill, for us in the real world, it's talking about our everyday life. We play video games, we work every day. I mean, hopefully I work one day because I'm a fat chud who needs a job. And we just, try to survive in general. This is the basic reward system. We do something, we get something, we repeat. It's an endless cycle. When the terminal says the food makes you sick, it's talking about how rewards eventually stop feeling rewarding. And when it mentions hearing others racing you, that's about pressure, comparing yourself to everyone else and feeling like you're constantly being pushed to keep up. For this just to be one of probably hundreds of terminals, it's very philosophical and just makes you think. I can go on and on about this one terminal alone, but I'll be here all day, so let's move on. So that begs the question, why did Bungie not add any cutscenes or voice actors? I couldn't find any actual evidence, but Google says they had storage limits and budget constraints, which makes sense considering this is the early 90s and Bungie wasn't even close to the giant it is now. Some might agree or disagree, but having a voice actor or cinematic is sometimes not as powerful as something like a terminal because of the fact that a voice tells you how to feel. On the other hand, a terminal, or any just text for that matter, allows players to interpret what they are reading into their own way, allowing multiple different meanings or even truths. This is exactly why the Marathon games have been beloved by the people who have played it. The lore is super dense and deep that most of what was written is relevant in today's standards. Now, me personally, like I said, I'm Gen Z and I don't really like to read, so I would rather have voice acting at cutscenes because my attention span is absolutely fried. But I do see why people who play this game fall in love with the terminals because they are beautifully written and captivating to read. So with all the terminals being cool and all, what's the actual lore of the game? The lore of the games that I have read so far reminds me of stuff like iRobot, Detroit Become Human, and even Nier Automata. By the way, it's an absolutely goated game. I highly recommend playing Nier. There are 3 main AIs with personalities in the Marathon games: Durandal, Leela, and Tycho. These 3 slowly over time become more deviant to the programming, going against their own system, if you will. This is a theme of rampancy in the Bungie's lore. It's not the most exciting concept considering there is millions of different types of media of this exact plot happening, but then again, this was made in the early 90s where AI wasn't so prevalent and widespread. Durandal is started as a directive following AI. Basically, he's the one that controls the Marathon ship, and he's been in his rampancy stage of life for years, even before the start of the first game, according to Tycho, the other main AI. In Marathon 1, the moment where Durandal got over his early stages of rampancy was when he implies that he bypassed his thought control circuitry. In doing so, he fully gains consciousness and self-awareness, allowing him to contemplate his own existence, understand metaphors, understand analogies, and act outside of his programming. Kind of like my goat Marcus from Detroit Become Human. At the start of the first game, Durandal acts like a free agent by seizing the control of the Thor ship? I'm just gonna call it the 4 ship. So when he does this, he's navigating the whole Marathon situation to his own advantage. And he's quitting his job as just the mere ship management AI. And in doing so, he indirectly and knowingly unalives people. He sacrifices humans because it's part of his strategy. Durandal didn't start as a mass murdering AI because people were already dying before he even gained self-awareness. At the beginning of the game, ships were failing, the Marathon ship was under active 4 invasion, most of the crew and civilians were already unalived or even being slaughtered. Once Durandal started to become fully self-aware, he started to prioritize his own long-term goals over human life. Durandal doesn't pull the trigger, but he does make decisions where the death of a human is an acceptable loss in his eyes. For example, Durandal uses you as the player, giving you partial or misleading information, and as a result, your actions as the player lead to deaths that Durandal knew about and accepted. The thing is, he doesn't kill people directly because of his own hatred, he just simply no longer values human meaning. And his writing is so fire because of that. I mean, he's not just some cliche rogue AI that hates humans and just unalives them. He understands morality, he understands consequence, he understands humans as a whole. He just simply doesn't care anymore. By the time of Marathon 2, Durandal is no longer concerned with humanity and the 4 war. His objective has fully shifted towards surviving the death of the universe, and at that scale, any individual life or an entire species was just background noise to him. In the third game, Durandal finds a way to physically leave the Force ship and exist in a form which is now capable of outliving the universe. Durandal had selfish, ambitious goals, and he achieved them. Now, if this shit isn't hard, I don't know what is. The other AIs, Tycho and Leela, both represent different aspects of order, unreliability, and chaos. These AIs have major conflicts that shape the story plot points. I would talk about them, but I'm honestly too damn lazy, so if you're really interested in them, I highly advise to Google them up and shit, because they are pretty cool. So, from all the lore I've spouted out of my mouth, you can probably already see how deep Marathon's lore really is. And what makes all of the lore and story of the game special is the fact that none of it is explained to you outright at all. It's hidden in the terminals. I mean, you could probably miss the whole story if you play all 3 games and miss all the terminals if you're not paying attention somehow. After researching these games, I'm deadass super invested in the story now, because holy shit, it's generally a masterclass of a story. I know I'm missing some details about Durandal and the other AIs, but this video isn't about the history of Marathon, so let's talk about the reason you're all here, Marathon 2026.
One of the things we really want to do from the build crafting side is making sure that we're providing people ingredients instead of giving them a recipe. The biggest thing I want people to take away from Marathon is that it still feels amazing. It still feels like it has that spark.
It takes all the aspects that I think Bungie is really good at. First-person feel and gunplay, the super deep, crazy sci-fi lore, and it mixes up all those things together in a really amazing PvP package.
But before we talk about Marathon, we do gotta talk about how Bungie got into the situation they're currently in. Do you remember when I talked about how Marathon was a huge risk to make for Bungie at that time? That was a completely different Bungie than the company that we know today. Or is it really? Because 30 years later, they're right back to where they were at. Same money-starving company. Sure, they have more devs than they had before, but that's not really saying much considering 50% of the damn staff has been laid off in the past 2+ years. They're back at it again, taking a risk that could stop the company from ever making games again. It's quite poetic if you ask me. The first game they made is Marathon that started it all, and now they're making another one that could fucking end it all. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the layoffs. This is probably one of the early signs that Bungie was going straight downhill. It first started in October of 2023 when they decided to lay off 100 or so employees from the company. Then a bit after the final shape came out, they then decided to axe 200 more employees from the company. Obviously, this is really bad due to the fact that Destiny 2 at the time wasn't really making any profit, and it still isn't if I'm being honest. The episodes that they made were fucking trash. Besides Heresy, that was goated. Rip my boy Oryx though. But it just had a lot of content drought. It wasn't intriguing, it wasn't engaging, and a lot of players just fucking left, which is understandable. Sony recorded a $204 million impairment loss that was tied to Destiny 2's assets. They've admitted that Bungie didn't meet the expectations that Sony had when they first acquired the company back in 2022 for $3.7 billion dollars. Sony allowed Bungie to work independently, but recently-ish, they've said that no longer might be a thing. I'll talk about it more later though, so stay tuned. On top of the layoffs was the player base of Destiny 2 were dropping consistently since Final Shape. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that when player numbers go down, the game itself goes down with them. The episodes and the Edge of Fate expansion really just the game over. Edge of Fate launched with a staggering 99,000 players on Steam on day one. This is complete ass. Edge of Fate was supposed to be a new take on Destiny, like a Destiny 2.5, by reforming its internal game mechanics and design, like weapons and armor stats. So they made the tier system, which sounded cool at first, but obviously it didn't work out at all during Edge of Fate up to Renegades. It took years to level up, making the grind an absolute snooze fest. Later during Edge of Fate, they made it easier and faster to level up, which was good, but it just wasn't enough to bring anyone back who had already dropped the game, especially after Desert Perpetual came out and everyone had their fair share of the loot. The game was in the worst state it has ever been in since Curse of Osiris. Hell, in my opinion, it was in the worst state it's ever been in. To put that into perspective, Curse of Osiris almost shut down Destiny 2 altogether. Yeah, it was bad. So to think Edge of Fate was worse is wild to say, but not all of it is bad news. Edge of Fate honestly has one of the best stories Destiny 2 has had in a long time, probably since Final Shape. But the thing is, a great story can only carry a game so far. Destiny 2 is an RPG and it has MMO elements, and if the RPG systems aren't fun and the loot chase doesn't feel worth it, people are just gonna quit. And I don't think that's an unreasonable reaction because I also stopped shortly after Desert Perpetual came out. I mean, I haven't even done the epic version of the raid yet because I just don't fucking care enough. By the way, where is my mint retrograde? I mean, look at my mint retrograde. It fucking sucks. During Edge of Fate, I only got to power like 380 and never got a tier 5. And to anyone that's about to say this, no, I am not grinding Hawthorne to get absolute dog shit. Bungie, please bring it back. I need to get my tier 5. I do want to talk about Renegades a little bit because it does deserve to be in here. Renegades has been the only time I've genuinely had fun in this game since Final Shape, which at the time of launch of Renegades was about a year and a half ago. Renegades was so good. The story might have been not as good as Edge of Fate, but oh my god, was the gameplay and loot chase better in every way. The Dungeon Equilibrium is one of the better dungeons Destiny has to offer. It's fun to play and the grind is so much more enjoyable, which is all this game is about. Unlike Sunner Doctrine or Vesper's Host, it doesn't take 5 business days to get to boss damage. No shade to those dungeons, they're both great, but man, does it take absolute ages to get anywhere. In Equilibrium, you just do simple mechanics and get good loot. I mean, what more do you want? Even though Renegades was a good DLC, it still wasn't enough to bring players back. Renegades launched with a peak of 71,000 concurrent players on Steam, making it the lowest expansion launch in the franchise's history. Then numbers quickly plummeted towards the 50,000 to 30,000 range in the weeks after launch, and I recently just checked SteamDB. It's in January 29th at the time of making this script, and it's averaging 13 to 19,000 players on Steam. It's really sad to see this game in this state considering I've been playing this game my whole life, since D1. So Bungie, please fix this game soon, like we need you, man. A bit after Edge of Fate came out and the honeymoon was over, Sony came out to say that Bungie working as an independent studio is getting lighter according to articles like this. And if things don't go Sony's way, Sony might just completely consume Bungie and become part of PlayStation Studios. Honestly, I feel like they should just consume them. I might be a little too harsh here, but Edge of Fate almost became the final nail for me, and I feel like Sony might steer the company in a better direction. That might be copium, but who knows. Bungie cannot miss when it comes to Marathon. When it comes to the company's reputation already being in the shit, Destiny 2 losing players daily, and Sony is slowly tightening the leash around the studio's fat, girthy neck because of missed revenue expectations, add on the layoffs, and with no Destiny 3 in sight at the moment, Marathon is the only saving grace Bungie has to secure any sort of baggage. If Bungie locks in and makes Marathon a good quality game, a lot of people are playing it, a lot of people are enjoying it, it can honestly work out for them. If there's anything Bungie has always been good at, it is gunplay and atmosphere. I still play Destiny to this day because the moment-to-moment gameplay is so good. It's addictive. Even if the game itself is not in the best of states, you can't deny the fun factor the game has. Shooting guns is so satisfying in a way that a lot of other games still can't replicate it. And so far, people have said the gunplay of Marathon is really good and enjoyable, including my friend who actually got access to play one of the playtests that Bungie offered. This is huge because you can fix balance, you can tweak the game's systems, but you can't really fix bad feeling gunplay. Another reason on how Marathon can work out is the fact it's a brand new IP. No decade-long baggage that Destiny carries, it's a clean slate. Having a new IP means having a new or returning audience. The only thing that is really carrying over from Destiny is Bungie's bad rep, but still, Marathon is an extraction shooter and I haven't really played any true extraction shooter, so this game might be my first genuine one. And in my personal opinion, I do kind of wish this wasn't one. I wish it was more of a story-driven game. Please don't end me, or maybe even another Destiny-related game. Even still, I'm not completely against it. If Marathon can play its cards right, it could hook me into the extraction shooter genre as a whole. Okay, let's say Marathon does succeed. They earned a good amount of money and viewership. What would it look like? This could just be speculation, but if Marathon is a smash hit, it doesn't mean it saves Bungie right away. It gives them actual time to rebuild trust with both players and Sony, which in their case is super important for survival. Now, a lot of people, including myself, might hate this, but if Marathon helps the company, it means Bungie is no longer tied to Destiny. For the first time in over a decade, they wouldn't be relying on Destiny to keep them afloat. Why people like me might hate this is because Destiny players might get left out or even forgotten, and I'm hoping this never happens, or I'll just off myself. But let's say they put the resources from Marathon back into Destiny, that would be goated. For the dev side of things, this means Sony isn't hammering Bungie as hard. They give them breathing room to operate instead of being micromanaged, which of course matters because studios under pressure don't make good games when they're constantly in some sort of survival mode. So having a win here means Bungie isn't on a sinking ship anymore. They have some sort of future that they can build towards. That's what success would look like, but what if it were to fail? Marathon's launch is the most important day for the game because first impressions are everything. So let's say it was complete ass. The short answer is GG's, okay? But for the people who would really love to see the world burn, the long answer is that it might just be written off as another extraction shooter, which is not good since the genre is saturated beyond belief. You gotta try to be unique. Sony might start squeezing the leash and force Bungie to bark for them and become some sort of slave under PlayStation Studios. So, for my sake, I don't want Bungie to collapse. Most people do, which is absolutely fair, but I need more Destiny. I want them to keep milking this game until my legs fall off and I'm in my deathbed about to die. But hey, so what if I'm about to die and I don't have any fucking pair of legs? I'm playing that new Destiny, baby, let's go! To end it on a serious note, it's insane how full circle this whole thing is. Bungie started as a small starving studio, betting everything on one game. And decades later, they're right back in a position where one game decides what their future looks like. Again, it's quite poetic. So that is why this reboot must succeed. It is so important not only to the fans of Destiny, but Bungie as a studio. Bungie has got to stick the landing. This isn't some new experimental game they're making because they can. There's high stakes here. The whole company can get swallowed by Sony or even worse, shut down. I want Marathon to succeed not because of Bungie's sake, but because of Destiny, a game I fell in love with 11 or so years ago. And I am kind of excited for Marathon. After all the recent videos they've made about this game, it actually looks pretty good. But will it stay good, or is it just going to die relatively quickly and just, you know, Bungie's going to try to sweep it under the rug like it never happened? I hope it's good, man, and I hope it stays good for the sake of Destiny. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that sub. I would give you a hug if you did. This video was hella fun to make, and if you want to see more like this, leave some recommendations or whatever in the comments. I would love to do more of these types of videos. Anyways, thanks for watching, and it's been your GOAT, Desert Ego. Before y'all go, I have a little bonus clip for you guys. I played a Trials of Osiris game with Frostbolt a couple years ago, and I haven't shown anyone but my friends, so here it is.
Oh no, I'm fighting Frostbolt! Enemy is left. I killed Frostbolt! I killed Frostbolt! 1 minute left, my friend.
Your little pussy belongs to me.